I used to think self-care was selfish. I think it's so needed in today's world that you've to be an effective leader, you really got to take care of yourself first. And if you don't take care of yourself, how can you lead others? You're not going to be that effective.
The Research Labs podcast by SundayPyjamas.
First of all, Brent, I would like to thank you for spending some time, and I would also like to say that I've been reading a book over the past couple of weeks. I'm taking one chapter at a time, and there are a lot of questions that I have. And I think the last short discussion that we had, it was I would say very nice and very meaningful. And I hope that you are able to enjoy yourself in today's show.
Okay.
So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Do you think we can maybe start from the beginning? I was reading the book, and in it you mentioned that before you joined the company, you had few other jobs, which was in the beginning of the book. But maybe could you walk us through how it was like to grow up, where you grew up, in the family that you grew up in? Like, how was your childhood like?
Yeah, yeah. So early on, my dad, I mean, he was in the lab business, and he worked for several companies, Harris Laboratories, and we moved between the ages when I was born and 10. We moved three times, and in each place, I think my dad was trying to figure out what he really wanted to do with his life. And then it wasn't till I was 10 years old in 1975 that we moved to Omaha, and he started a lab business with another person. So it was just the two of them. And I remember my dad coming home, working long hours, and signing reports at home, I mean, just working around the clock. That's what I remember in order to get his business off the ground. And it exploded. It really went fast. And this was probably the late 70s, early 80s. And when I was 15, I joined the business and started doing work. Uh, Cleaning wherever tasks need to be done. That's kind of what I was doing, and I followed that up in high school and summers in college, and then after college, my dad and I had a agreement. He said, "I don't want you coming back to the business. You need to go out and work professionally, and let's see how you do on your own before we even think about coming back." And that's where I worked, as you said. I taught for a few years, worked at some large corporations, Mutual of Omaha, Arthur Anderson, HDR, and then I came back in 2005. But through that experience, that was a great experience for me, and I mean, that was the way to do it. I still believe.
You guys moved to Omaha, and your parents decided to move to Omaha. Was it thought through? Like, what do you think was their thinking at the time to move to Omaha? Did they see an opportunity, or was it more like, that looks greener on the other side? Let's see how it is like there.
Yeah, he was approached. My dad was approached by a company to start a lab in Omaha. And it is kind of funny because we came to Omaha a week after a tornado had gone through Omaha. So literally, there was in the middle of the city, there was a lot of buildings. The storm had come through. Did a lot of damage. We haven't had a tornado since like that since then. But I think, and then he started the company with this business, and in the early 90s, then he saw something that he noticed that the owners were using a lot of the revenue from his business to pay for other companies. So at that time, he decided it's time to break off and become our own company. And so they bought their way out of that from this group. It was A&L Midwest at the time, and we just became Midwest Laboratories. So I think even that process too was really eye opening for me to see as we grew this company, and that was a big deal. That was really a big deal at the time.
And how was that transition like for the family at the time?
I don't. I think my sister and I were really sheltered from it. We saw our dad working hard, but I don't think we really. All our dad kept telling us was, "Hey, don't start your own business. It's too tough. Don't do this. This is a lot of work." And we kept hearing that over and over, which again I'll refer to later on. But that was the message we kept hearing a lot.
Was it tough for them to take care of the business and the family at the same time? Like, could you like a lot of time when a parent is under stress, you can feel it as a child.
Um, I think we knew our dad was working a lot, and we were, our mom, I mean, bless her heart, she took care of us kids, and we never knew how hard. We never knew. I mean, I think we were a lot sheltered from the hard work or the hard what it was going to take to build it. And then as we got into the company, we kind of learned, oh, there's a lot more to this. Oh, my sister and I, we would talk about that there was a lot more that we weren't hearing necessarily. But no, my dad, I mean, he was just doing an incredible job of building it, and at the same time being a father. I don't remember like missing my dad or anything like that, but I just remember just trying to understand what was really happening, what was really going on.
And the reason I'm asking these questions because in the book, right, the book
Hmm.
starts after this whole episode, and
Yeah, yeah.
I feel that it has to do a lot with the things that you remember, you know.
No, you're absolutely right. See, and that's a good transition because when you look in your heart, you have to go back and you have to understand why things happened the way they did. And it's not a good or bad thing. And sometimes we think that, and I used to think that, well, that's what my dad is. I'm not going to do that. But it's more, oh, I know why he did that at that time. Oh, it worked at that time, and this is the reason why it did. And I want to and there's certain things, yeah, I want to keep those things, or you know what, I'm going to build on what he started there, or no, that's not going to work anymore. I mean, all those things I think you go play through on your mind a lot because that's what you're looking at the experiences from the past and how do you reconcile them and bring them all together to create something again that will flourish.
And when you went out in the world to do something of your own, and
Yeah,
when you had a more, I would say, informed perspective, and then when you looked at what your dad was doing, did that surprise you? I was like, oh my god, my dad has been doing this for so long, like he must be really smart or something.
I think I had in my head that when I went into my professional career was I got to work harder than anybody else because that's what I saw in my dad. I got to spend the long hours. I got to work tremendous. I got to be the first one in, last one to leave. I got to do all those things. And in order for me to move up in the company, that was my drive. Um, and what it really did, and I brought that mentality when I came back. I had that same drive. Like I got to be the first one. And I don't know if it was necessarily healthy at the time, but what I had. That was who I was. And if someone would ask me, why are you doing this? I just said, well, I have to do these things in order to move up. That I did not have a strong why. I just did them because that's the only, I was living in the day to day. This is the only way I see until someone sees something in me and then maybe I move up. But that's exactly how I lived. And it was hard. I mean, I didn't see my family either. I remember, I think back, I missed out on some of my kids' activities and stuff because I thought I had to be at work all the time and put in the extra hours.
Your book is a reflection on your entire life. Were you able to answer that question for yourself? Why were you doing that at the time? I mean, you definitely mentioned, that's who you were, but do you think it was maybe deeper than that?
Yes. And I think it takes somebody or something to unlock it. It's in your heart someplace. And that's really my message of the book is all this leadership, all these things are inside of each one of us, but maybe it takes something to unlock it. And in my case, it was working with Dana. I'll never forget that conversation. It's in the book that with that 2.5 hour or 3 hour drive from Austin to Dallas, she kept asking me, "What's my why?" And I couldn't answer, and she kept asking more and more, and I couldn't come to grips with what my why was, and I had to search for it because that was really, she was right. That was really critical if the business and the vision was going to work. And I eventually did find it, and it's been life changing ever since because it really is transformational and it really sits you in a different light, and you can really live so much differently. People see it. It is part of the culture, and it is part of who you are, and it really drives you. And basically, it's my why and how is I'm a person of faith who coaches people up and leads from the heart. And I say that every single day. And it's been life changing because before it was almost like I was living a checkbox. Hey, I did that, I did that, I did that, and that doesn't go very deep. I mean, you can you can achieve some things, you can have success, but I don't know if it goes deep enough.
So what you mentioned, right, to me that sounds like the outcome of like a long process you went through to discover your why. Could you maybe share something about how did you get here in your mind?
Well, and I talk about it in the book, but I had to join a mastermind and really decide, am I an entrepreneur or not? Do I have that entrepreneurial spirit in my heart? And what I learned was, I'll never forget, I was in a room with 150 other business owners, and there was just something, I was like getting chills. I was like, this is cool, so cool. And they were all different sizes of businesses, from 1 to 2 to 50 to 100 employees. And I just remember being in that room like, yeah, this is who I am. Why have not seen this or experienced this before? And I think it really hit me like, why did I not start my own business? I had these tools, I had this stuff. I just never took the time to even think about it because I was in that whole living to the day, working so hard, trying to move up, trying to provide for your family, all these things, but I didn't really take a step and think it was even possible. And now I look at it, I'm completely different. I instill in my kids, hey, do you want to start your own business? Go ahead. Go do that. I want you to have that creativity. I want you to have that ideation because it's so critical. We need that. We need that more in our people today. Because I don't think a lot of people know their why, as I didn't. There's a lot of people like that.
What do you think happened in that seminar when you had the experience? Was it looking at all these people? Was it something that was shared off from the stage by the person who was talking, or it was just
It
like a
was
moment you had?
both. I mean, I think it was all those things coming together, but I think it was an openness. You have to be vulnerable enough to just say, because for many years I would shut things out. I did not want things in my heart. I actually would even tell myself that, don't let it get too close to your heart because you might feel something, or you don't, that's not, you don't want to. And it's almost like that's almost a fear kind of driven life. And I probably had a little bit of that. But once you open it up and you realize, I can do this, this thing is possible, then it just turns the lights on and things start to become more alive. And you have to channel that with your own energy. And so that's why I get up. That's why I work out all the time and develop my own routine. And that was so critical because before that, I didn't have a routine. Again, I treated physical activity as a checkbox. I went to the gym, 30 minutes, boom, I did that. Or I read a book, I did that. I got some knowledge. But when you really take it and you live it, it's totally different way of living, I think.
And you talk about openness. Do you think it was easy to do that? Because I don't think like
Oh,
being open to new things is that easy. I think it's
no,
scary actually.
it is. It is. You really have to sit down, and I think I talk a little bit about it. It really took an intentionality, and I think about it. Really took me, which is sad, but it took me to lose my mom to cancer. And in that moment, I said, I'm going to be intentional. I want to be more intentional about my faith. I had no idea what I was asking for there, but then as I was praying and learning more, that intentionality grew, and you want to get better. You realize that you're at a certain point, and hey, I need to get better, physically, mentally, spiritually. The whole Everything needs to come together here, and you start to work on those, and you have an intentionality. And the beauty about that is you grow in awareness. And I think that was I don't know if my awareness was well, I know it was very low. So today, when I walk in, I try to feel the energy in the room. I try to feel like what's happening around me. Are people happy or sad? And I can change the energy in a second too. I didn't even realize that either. If I come in really down or serious or not in a good mood, that people know that and feel that and really react to that. And it can set the tone, which is not the way I want to do it things. But I think what it's really shown me over the last few years is you really have to be intentional, and it's hard. Absolutely. You got to be on your A game. I want to bring my A game every day, And when I say that, I mean, I have to really be in the moment and really know what's happening. And people laugh at me in meetings because let's say if I say to you, or someone says to me, "Hey, I want a 40% raise in salary," I'll take a deep breath because before I would say, I might have said, "Heck no, I'm not giving you that. You can't, you don't deserve that." But today I'll take a deep breath and say, "Okay, tell me more. Where's this coming from?" You know, it's a whole different way again, but everyone laughs at me because they know when I take a deep breath that they can tell I'm super uncomfortable with whatever was being said. But I do in a way, people recognize the cues. And if for me, it slows me down instead of being reactive right away. I can take a pause and think about, okay, how do I want to react? How do I want to show up after hearing that statement? And what can I say there?
Hmm. And you mentioned this happened after you lost your mom to cancer. I'm sorry to hear that. Could you maybe share a little how, like, what your bond was with your mom and how that phase of your life was?
Yeah, what I saw in my mom, and I don't think I saw my mom after she passed away. I saw my dad go into real loneliness, and she was there for him. And she, she was a lady of prayer. She has, I don't know, probably 100 journals. She journaled all the time. And my sister and I are reading those journals. She would pray for her friends and her family, and my sister and myself and my dad, and we would read. We're in the process right now of reading all these notes that she took and all the things that were on her mind or that she was seeing in us. And it was just creating such a awareness for me as like, wow, these are real things here that um, she really took the time to journal and put these down on paper because these things were really heart driven. And um, I never knew what my mom was always writing. She was always writing something or sitting in her chair, or she would have a coffee or a drink in the mornings outside. But that she had her own routine. And I think about it, she really had her own routine in the way she dealt with the day and what energy she was going to bring to the table. And some things were on our mind, some things were really she was really happy about. But it was good. It was good for me to see that now. I see it much more obviously than when again she was here. But yeah, it's been really cool to see that again.
Do you think reading those journal notes helped you understand where she was coming from? Like, a lot
Oh
of
yes,
times when you get to know, like, the backstory of something about someone, and this has happened to
yeah,
me as well, when I got to learn about, for example, when I was really young, what my dad was going through, what my mom was going through, why were they angry in this week, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, it was not me, it was something else that was going on.
yeah. No, I I think there was a lot going on, and we can never know exactly. And that I think was the interesting point when my kids read my book too. They were like, "Dad, we didn't realize that. We had no idea that's what was happening." On certain events, or so I think it's really good that we sometimes we share even in written form what happened in our lives so that people understand our story better because everyone has some type of story. And no, it's been really helpful even for helpful for my kids to understand where I'm at and what I'm thinking because I can be so serious. I used to be I'm probably too serious still, but not to the point where I used to be, and not saying too much. And there was, Dad, what are you thinking about? I'm like, oh no, never mind, because it's probably was something that in the moment I shouldn't even be thinking about because my I couldn't shut my brain off for many years. I even going to sleep, it was hard for me to do that. But yes, no, I think it's important, as you say, as you point out, to really share these journals and see it makes it come alive what you're doing.
Did you realize this after probably you wrote the book and your children read it, that, oh, wait a minute, these people have no clue who I am?
I think in some way, I think that question did come up a couple times. Yeah, but and I think it was because um, I would I think I thought a lot of things or a lot of stuff that I probably didn't need to think about. I was thinking about all the time because I was so it wasn't in my heart. Everything I was constantly processing, and when you're constantly processing and rationalizing, You're trying to think of your next move. I mean, it's very tiresome. It wears you out, and I don't know if, and you can't tell everybody what you're thinking. I mean, it's just you don't want to tell. Oftentimes, I would stop myself. Hey, I don't want to talk about work. I don't want to talk about. There's no need for you guys to know about that because it's not good thoughts right now. Or or you have a really good thought, but it's like okay, I don't know. It was just those types of things. I didn't want to talk about work all the time.
But maybe did you do you feel now that maybe sharing, they would not think it was work, and they would just share, they would just think that, oh, this is what my dad is going through, I can probably hear him out.
My kids know that my work life, even when I came back to the job, when I came back and my dad had two partners, they knew it was really hard for me. They knew I was going through a lot. They knew I had ideas. They were very supportive, and I tried not to show it, but I, I think they could tell, and I think the book kind of opened up like, yeah, that we knew you were going through something, or we knew you, but we didn't know what it was. Today, I think it's really helpful. Like they can ask questions now. Hey, how are things going? You mentioned this, or they're much more aware of what's happening, and they're much more excited about it. It's a whole different perspective. Whole different perspective.
How do you feel about it? Like before, you had to like keep everything inside of you, and now not just your kids, but everyone who works with you can also read the book. Do you feel, I would say, it's one thing to tell it to your family, it's something else to write a book on it and share it with everybody else. Do you feel your life has changed after
Oh,
writing the book, probably?
absolutely, absolutely. And my story is probably similar to others. When I got out of the day to day, because I saw my dad. My dad was in the day to day till he retired at 80 in 2020, the whole time. And it was a few years ago. I'll never forget. The leadership team came to me and said, "We need you to get out of the day to day. You need to focus on strategic matters. We're busting at the seams. You need to go find us a new campus. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're out of the day to day. You can trust us. We have your back." And I had never worked anywhere else in my life that I could really trust to that degree. And that is freeing. Believe me, that is freeing. And the funny part, I shouldn't say the funny part, the cool part about this is that we're starting to see it in our employees. I mean, would you ever I the things that employees say, would you go to the top CEO and tell them that, this job stinks? Or I I think, or something to that effect. I think what it showed to me, and again, it was the first time I heard those things, I was like, oh my gosh, I would have never said this in my whole career, to the top guy. But I think what they're seeing is they can be transparent. They know it's a safe place. They can express their true feelings. But again, for me, it was not, at first it was kind of weird when I heard those things, and I never thought I'd see the day that is happening. But we're having a lot more direct conversations. We're absolutely saying the truth. A lot of people had locked that had been here a while had locked up their own feelings. They did not know how to deal with it. So the fact that we have an open culture, we can deal with things. Obviously, bad behavior still, we address that, and we have you don't get rewarded for bad behavior. But I would just say the culture has really changed, and it has been tremendously different. But you have to trust. You have to get out of the way. I was the probably the cog in the road. I was the thing that was stopping people from going. I don't need to be in every decision. I can trust that the decisions being made that are going to be good ones. Yes, we're going to make mistakes, but I will tell you, I know more about the business now being out of the day to day than I ever did being in the day to day. It's the craziest thing, but it is so true. It is so true.
How long did it take to understand that, what you just said, especially when you are running the show and nobody can tell you anything, probably?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was, I mean, yeah, it's been eye opening to me. And the company has taken off. It has. Um, we have grown so much. Employee count wise, we've gone from in 2019, we had 114 employees. Today, we almost have 300. Top line revenue, everything is double digit growth. We never closed during the pandemic. Um, but I attribute it all to we got our core values into place. We got our mission, our vision, our leadership team. I could trust them. I got out of the way. That was huge too. Getting out of the way, focusing on strategic pieces, because and I know everyone in the company wants to know where you're going every day. I mean, they want to know, is the company going in a good direction or is not going in a good direction? And you better tell me now. Everyone wants to know that now. But no, I'm very excited. Like today, we have our once a month we have all of our employees for a town hall. They can come in person. They can watch on Teams. They can. It's recorded. They can watch it when it works for them. And because we're operationally, we don't stop, but we do give people the chance, the opportunity to be in person and get updated on what's happening in the company.
I would say congratulations on all the growth. It's very nice to hear.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Do you think the growth kind of made you write the book, or like you felt that I'm starting to adopt this approach, I'm being more open, and it's really helping the business, I can see the change, okay, now I'm comfortable enough to share my story? Do you think it's that, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, I think it's that. And the one piece we probably haven't talked about a lot is the whole self care. I used to think self care was selfish. I used to think that was so
Which you
selfish.
write in the book as well.
Yes. And I think I really wrote the book more for just to tell my story. And if it helps somebody, that's really the purpose of it. Because I think it's so needed in today's world that you've to be an effective leader, you really got to take care of yourself first. And if you don't take care of yourself, how can you lead others? You're not going to be that effective. So you've got to do that first. And then as we talked about, you got to have people around you that you can truly trust, that have your back. And then you have to work with the employees. You have to be with the employees. I made it a point this year to meet with every single department and just get to know them. I go to know a little bit about them and personalize it, because I can't sit back in my office and not see anybody. I mean, some people can do that. I can't do that. I know myself. um, the company is really for the employees. I feel like a huge responsibility in these employees, their families, their careers, their dreams. And that's what I'm here for. And obviously our clients, we serve our clients and to the best, but I know you'll go further, faster with people than any technology or any process. So that's what drives me. And so if we have the really great people and they know that they're supported and we trust them and we create a safe environment, we I believe and take care of them. Obviously, you still got to take care of them and pay them. That the dividends, the returns on that will be immense, and we'll see it. We'll see it in the bottom line, and we'll see that as we continue to grow.
I would say I read the first few chapters of the book. I read chapters where you talk about self care, which you felt it was very selfish. I also read the chapter, I think not a chapter, maybe a subchapter called Life and Death, where I think you talk about the cancer that your mother had to go through.
Hmm.
And throughout it's like a journey where I could feel what you might have gone through in during that time of your life. And the book is more like a reduction, like a reduced abstract version of what actually happened, and it creates a lot of empathy in you, and what you had to go through. Do you think even you learn to empathize with yourself during the process of writing the book? Like, a lot of times you just treat yourself as like this machine that needs to get this job done, which I think you also talk in the beginning of the book. And then towards the end, it felt like you actually accepted yourself, like, oh, wait a minute, even I am like a human being that needs to be taken care of. Do you think that happened because of the book, or because of that conversation in the you had when your friend asked you about the why?
Well, yeah, I think it's a combination of all those. There is a funny story about the book too. I worked with a ghostwriter in the beginning, and after a year, you weren't supposed to let anybody read it. And so I got all the way done. I let my wife read it, and she goes, "This isn't you," and that really hurt. So I had to take a step back and say, "Oh, yeah, I got all the way through. It's probably not my voice." So then I took a whole nother year and I owned it, owned the content. I rewrote it. So I rewrote every single chapter. And I added a faith component. I did not have a faith component in it. And my wife goes, "That's you. You need to put that in there." And she was absolutely right. So I think, to your point, the book helped me bring my thoughts together. It was a work in process because I was dealing with some of these things as I was writing it. And so I think it was a growth piece for me, and it was a reflective piece for me as well. And I think through it, it really did help strengthen my whole core values, my absolutely my faith, my awareness of others. So yes, because it really holds me accountable. If I don't do these things, obviously I'm not who I say I am, and that's really important to me. And to your point, that's why you have a strong why. If you don't have a strong why, then you can be all over the place, and maybe you haven't found it yet, and that's okay. But I'm just saying, if you once you have that, then that's who you say you are. Then you better live that. That's the way you're going to live. So it does give you some accountability too, I think.
I would say a while ago you mentioned that before the episode of your mom suffering from cancer, you did not, you were very reactive in nature. And then you became very responsive. Like you try to think, okay, what is coming my way? You try to feel the room and then you try to respond to it. And from what I can understand, I think you have a vision in mind. Okay, this is where I want the room to go. And then you consciously take the room and the energy in that direction. Did you have to kind of learn that, or it kind of came naturally to you?
I think, yeah, that's a great point because I didn't. I used to think people would say they could feel the energy in the room. I thought that was such. I thought almost BS. I was say, they were just like, oh, that's fluffy stuff. They can't really feel that. But no, when you really do feel, when you do get into it and you take things to heart, you can. So I think in my case, I was able to train myself to really feel the energy. The other thing that's really helped me with, those people who are going to suck the energy out of you. You can, you talk to them and they're, so now, you see, I took a deep breath because sometimes I have to just like, okay, I'm going to be prepared with those people because some couple come, when I'm in the presence of those people, I'm going to handle myself this way. I'm not going to invest 100% all of my energy only to be taken down, or I'm just going to go at it, but I'm not going to give 'em my full energy because I know if I do, I'll just be taken down, or it's going to wipe me out. So I think it's actually healthy. It sounds, and again, you have to really sometimes it's struggle with the selfishness enough, but I think it's really about bringing your best self to the conversation every single time, and adding value. And the only way you can do that is when you know when you're aware of the situation, as much as you do know, and then you work those things out, and you get better at it. I will say that I've gotten better at managing my energy. I've gotten better at knowing. I know that if I have a bad night of sleep, I better be, I got to go slower because I'm going to tend to be more reactive because maybe I'm not full of energy today or something like that. I need to really watch. I need to be really careful what I say or how I choose my words. So I think that's really important. I think it is. Again, it's just a whole more self awareness of who I am. I know who I am, and I know I better just okay, slow down and watch how things are going. Because it's easy to get accelerated. And on the other hand, you can have so much energy, you get so accelerated that you can go the other way. And I've done that too. And you got to be careful of that.
And you also mentioned that you had to like get out of the way of people so that they could actually make decisions because you don't have to get involved in everything. How does someone like you actually figure that out for yourself? What was business not doing good so that you had to like sit down and reflect on your behavior? How did that work out?
I think, well, you learn from your experiences.
Not necessarily though, if you don't want to learn, you don't learn. So
Right,
I want to
right.
understand, yeah, what made you do it? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was in this whole transition when my father and I were running the business. We were losing clients as fast as we were gaining them. So I put on my sales hat and I said, okay, I got to go get some more clients. And I was able to bring in some big clients with a lot of work, but I wasn't addressing the problem. I was still on the back end. We weren't taking care of their needs from the testing side and from the support side, and I was really getting irritated that because I was bringing the business in, but at the same time, these other things weren't happening, and I think they were scared because they didn't know what I was doing, and I was bringing them in, and I thought they knew what to do, and again, I guess that's the part where you say, we have to. you have to really work at bringing those two together. And I would say for me, it's really been about, doesn't sound really glamorous, but building the infrastructure has been the biggest key in our change and continued growth. We started 3 years ago. When you say, what's your main goal, top goal, and you say to build our infrastructure, well, people don't get excited about that. They want to, more sales or more tests or more innovation, but we have focused on the infrastructure, and that again does wonders because you have to do it from the people side. You've got to look at your processes, and then technology is the last part, but really it puts a focus on people first, and that's what's really helped us. And that was my biggest learning. And I say that in the book about the people, process, and technology, but that's the infrastructure piece, and you have to work at that all the time, I think, in order to be successful.
And you mentioned you had to go out there and get new clients for your business, like do sales. How does sales work in the industry that you work in? Is it very relationship based? Is it very process based? Is it very product based? Like your product is so niche, like they will work with you regardless of how you behave.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of all those things, but we really tend to focus on the relationship piece. We do, we go to about, I believe, like 65 trade shows a year. So we want,
That's a big number.
yeah, that's a lot. Yes. So we want to send a team or a couple people to different shows to meet face to face because we found that interaction still. I know that's really contrary to what you hear out there, but that really has worked for us uh, quite well. Um, and we have some clients that have been with us even since 1975. The same agricultural clients have been with us all these years. But again, it really takes having a number of account managers, always be in contact with those clients to grow and do more work with them as well as the new ones. And then even in our front door or even our phone system, we have a live voice. We do not have any push one for this department, two, three. We're always going to have a live voice. And that's something since the beginning of the company. When you walk in the door, you're greeted by people that get up, try to help you out, or ask if you need help. I think that people interaction is still critical and it will always be there, regardless of how the economy goes. But that's the way we want to be driven, is that personal connection. Because I think once you connect with somebody a little more deeper, and it sounds a little, it just shows that you care. People want to know that they're cared for, that you're not another number, or you're just not, another dropping off another sample to be tested or something like that. But that we truly do care, and you have to show that. And the best way to show that is, I think, still think face to face.
How do you you have a sales department, you have people who talk to customers on a regular basis. How do you teach, or not even teach, like how do you communicate this culture that you are a owner of the business, you absolutely care about the customer, but let's say some people in your team who is joining for the first time, right, as a salesperson, how do you communicate with the new salesperson how to talk to the customers? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, when a customer interacts with your sales member or sales team member, that's their experience with the company. So
Mhm.
the way the team member talks to them or deals with them really matters. So how do you communicate or teach or train the sales member to do a good job at it?
Yeah, I think it's having a consistent message, and I would say we're still working at that part, but I think there has to be understanding, obviously, of the services, in our case, testing services that we do. We have to bring on people who are willing to learn. So we not only keep them behind their desk, but they go into the lab. They see the actual tests that they're selling out in the field. What does it look like in the lab side? What does it look on the data side? When the report comes out, what do those numbers mean? Okay, I have 9 parts per million mercury. What does that mean for the client? And we have to be able to express that. So it's really, we tell people it takes about a good year for you to really understand what's happening around here. And if you work with the client, first understand what their needs, why are they doing this test? You always have to ask why. Why are you getting your water tested? Is it, do you want it to be safe? Is it something you're, giving to you've got animals on a farm, or is it something you're trying to plant trees or other plants? Why are you having your water did something happen? Is there a spill? All those factors really go into helping us again give the results that are going to have meaning for them, and it really just slowing them down and really taking taking time to really understand what the needs are. I think that's probably the biggest part of selling, in our case, testing services, is you have to understand. If we just say, yeah, go out there and get 5 soil samples, tell them to send them in, we'll do the testing and we'll get the results back to them. Doesn't that, I mean, I just said that. It sounds very checkboxy, and we get all the information to them. They have no idea what to do with it. And maybe we missed the mark. We probably aren't even giving them what maybe they, depending on what they use that information for, we may have not even given them the right, any information they could use to make their next decision. So I think really understanding the customer needs is really the biggest part there. And we spend a lot of time on that because we don't, you're not going to get it right from the beginning because the person is trying to understand the business, understand the client. There's a lot there. Absolutely a lot.
So there is a huge consulting part to it, to the sales process.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
300 employees is a lot of people. I'm sure there are multiple departments doing various parts of the process for a singular client. And I think you also mentioned in the book about upgrading or installing a new information management system
Yes.
to better channelize the process. So how do you guys make sure that everyone is aware what is going on with a particular client? Like the sales member understands what the data person is working on and vice versa.
It is a very complex system. So you're right. Your client database has to have information about the client, as well as and it's a lot different than other industries. You've got to put details or information around the particular testing you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the frequency? Why are they needing? Is it, if it's on the, let's say it's pet food production, are you doing this because you're trying to get product out the door and into the retail market, final test? Did you change the formula on it, and you want to know what the results are based on that? Are you going to a new packaging, so we're testing the packaging to see if it can withstand the humidity or dryness, and how long can it sit on the shelf? All those things, the account manager. So we have a client service department, we have an account manager department, we have lab supervisors, we have directors and technical folks. All those people need to come together, and they have their own meetings. And right now, because we're in so many different buildings, we grew so fast. Might have, to your point, one sample could affect a number of labs. But what we're really excited about is this move to a new campus where we're going to have 3 verticals. We'll have an ag and environmental, we'll have a human health, and we'll have a animal health. So now we can have all those. We're always going to be market driven, but we can have people in those particular industry or sectors and really working closer together to really understand even at a deeper level. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very passionate about that. But to your point, you see the criticality in why bringing all this information together, and why it's so necessary to bring everyone kind of into the story. Because before, when we were at 114 people, I mean, all those people did was the day to day. They did not have time. They didn't have the resources to do the extra pieces to build the infrastructure. It just wasn't happening. So we were basically day to day living out and doing some extra things here and there, but it really was hard. It was very, very hard to do.
And how much work is it to move to a new campus? And I'm assuming you are kind of reorganizing the operations, like
Oh,
reimagining the whole thing from scratch.
yeah. We started last year, but then the cost, it was just everything went high, and we had to start over, and kind of, we wanted to see if we could move everything at once, and the price tag on that was just tremendously way too high, way over budget. So we just said, okay, let's take a step back. How do we break this up into pieces, to make this work better? And that's where we're at now. So we're just getting back into the design and pieces, but we also didn't know where the economy was going after last year with all these price increases. We had to really watch, but there's a sense of urgency. We're kind of full. I will say all of our buildings are full. There's not a lot of room for expansion, so we have to do this. But to your point, it's big because we can't stop. Literally can't stop production and just move in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We have to keep. We'll probably have to keep both campuses going for a while, and there'll be a little bit of transition, so it'll take some time, but it's got to be well planned out, well thought out. To your point, if it's going to be successful, yeah, it's a big move, definitely a big move.
And given the interest rate environment that we are in right now, is it a lot of uncertainty for a business of your size to make such a big move?
I would say we took some steps that we took some chances even during COVID. We we were fortunate. We got property in a building when the market was really bad in November of 2020. So we got a great deal and a price. If we were to buy that same property and land today, it was probably be about 4 or 5 times what we paid for. So
Wow.
I feel fortunate that way because in the time we were looking, I didn't know. Maybe you get to a point where you say, I think I'm going to need more resources, more money coming in. But because we were able to secure that and work through what our true budget is and how we're going to do this, yes, we can do it. We could absolutely do it. But to your point, you're you're very right on target. You have to know what you can and can't do, and
Exactly.
um, it is challenging. I will say that. Yeah, it is challenging. Every company is different, but there's a timing to things. Sometimes you get lucky too, but there's a lot involved there, as you said very well.
And you mentioned that there were some chances that you took. Could you maybe share the mindset behind taking chances? Is it calculated? Is it based on faith, or you just take the best bet you can probably take rationally? How do you guys go about that?
Yeah. Well, obviously, if I always like hard numbers to base things off. Everyone like that certainty. When you're in a pandemic, there's no certainty. There's no playbook. I'll never forget, like in April, it was March or April, they said, how long are you going to keep the business open? And of course, I took a deep breath and I said, okay, like, give me 2 hours. I need to think about this. I came back and I said, we're going to stay. I looked at what we had. I said, no matter what happens, if we have to close the doors tomorrow, we're going to pay our people through August. I made that promise. And was that, it was probably divine intervention there. There was no, you know, thinking back, how did I come up with those numbers? I had to really just pretty much land on something that would get people some peace, some way of thinking this is what's going to happen. And then as the business stayed open, as we've learned, we were essential business. We did get PPP money and we gave it back. But I think through that, you can make, as a leader, you kind of have there's a gut reaction. And we talked about, the energy in the room. You can kind of tell when things are off, things feel off. And sometimes I don't know why. And I'll just keep asking why something, say, hey, something doesn't feel right about this number. Someone will even hand you, a proposal for something and you just go, something doesn't feel right here. And then you look, I think you keep asking why. And then you get to what's the truth here? What's real? What am I missing here? And that's what it's really showed me. So yeah, in that moment, you may not have all the facts or the numbers or the truth, but you just keep asking why and realizing based on what your experiences and others, input from others. I always seek input from others. To give me maybe there's a perspective I'm not seeing here, but I feel really good, even in terms of uncertainty, like you said. You can persevere, absolutely persevere. I think.
And you mentioned when you were asked that question, you took 2 hours to come up with the answer. What happens in those 2 hours? I think what's going in through a mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, you just gotta slow down because again, in my reactiveness, I would have said, well, I don't know, that's the easy way. If somebody could have said, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And it's almost like an excuse. But when you really commit to something, then you're really putting yourself on the line. You say, okay, I'm going to commit. I can commit to this. And my team will even ask me that. Is this a commitment to you? Are you committing to this? It's your business. And I'll say, yes, I commit to this, because that's what they want to hear. They want to hear your commitment, that you're going to follow through, that you're not going to then 2 hours later say, well, I'm wrong. It's not August. It's June or something like that. But I think people want to see commitment. And when they know that you run a business, that you're committed, then there's buy-in. Then they know that, oh gosh, this guy's really serious, and he's promised this. Um, Now, do we make mistakes? Absolutely, we make mistakes, but then you do have to show your vulnerability, and you have to say, you know what, we were off here. We can't do this. That was last year. That was really hard. We wanted to do this new building, but we just couldn't do it. We had to come forward and tell, hey, we're stopping the project now. This makes no sense. I want to protect you. I can't. I'm not gonna put the risk of my employees, put them at that risk of not paying them in order to get this building done, or do something to that effect. I'm not doing that. And people appreciate that. If they know the reason why you're not doing something, or you made a mistake, or something didn't go quite right, you just come forward and you tell them why. This is why we're doing this. This is why, and show them. And I think messaging is huge. We always work on our messaging too, to, hey, this is the reason why. And I try to make sure it's a consistent message across all the team. Everyone knows that message, that someone doesn't say it and then someone else says a different message, because that happens in any company, but you really try to minimize that as much as possible.
I see. That must be tough to figure
Yeah.
that whole thing out. Yeah. Well, I think we're coming to an end here. It was very
Okay.
nice.
Okay. Very good.
How would you describe your experience today?
I thought this was great. You asked very thorough questions. I will say that. Very, very good questions. Very thought provoking. I think you really want to get at the heart and mind of your leaders that you interview, which I appreciate. You really are. Those are really good questions you asked today.